medically.
Hello.
I'm muted, but as always, I always forget to do that. Hey, how you doing?
I'm all right. One day we'll get that down.
Yeah, absolutely fail at that every week, but never mind, we'll get there. So you've just had a coffee because you've been napping all day, so you should be full of beans. You should be full of
I had
energy.
one nap. You've just been telling me that you've just been constantly napping.
Yeah, I've been experimenting.
You're not even Spanish.
Doing intermittent napping. It works with fasting, doesn't it? It works with food.
Yeah.
So
maybe it improved brain. Improved brain.
What the hell?
Improved brain. Yeah, but you're not even allowed to siesta anymore because it's snowing in your place, which is
no, it's all melted. It's been properly weird weather here this last week. It was 20 degrees on Thursday. I should just point out that we're in January, and then on Friday it just plunged to -1 and started snowing, and now it's all gone again. So I don't know what's going on. It's unexplainable and extraordinary. Look at that seg. That's the proper pro. And that's what we're talking about today. Unexplainable, extraordinary objects and places. I've always been fascinated, like since I was a kid, with the pyramids. And I read a lot of books about them. I remember reading about this robot that went down a really, really small like tunnel or corridor, and at the end of the corridor that it found a door that was locked from the outside, which is impossible. And like ever since then, I've always been fascinated by all of these stories that occasionally pop up. It reminds me of Men in Black. You know, in Men in Black, when he goes to the kiosk and buys one of the conspiracy alien comics, and Will Smith as the new agent kind of laughs at him and says, "What are you getting that for?" He's like, "I'm looking at the news."
Yeah, that's that's not a fucking documentary, don't you?
What, the Men in Black?
Yeah, that's a film, Ben.
Oh man, that's shattered my childhood.
I think it does raise an interesting subject, though, doesn't it? Like, why are people fascinated with all these things, the unexplained and the extraordinary? Are we searching for something bigger than us and higher than us, and or is it a fear of death that we're just trying to explain? Is it or is it just interest in the unknown? Because I suppose what stuff we don't know about is interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
more
for sure.
than stuff we do know about.
Well,
does that make sense?
Yeah, I don't think one of the problems that we have in modern times is that the age of exploration is in the past. Like we don't really explore anything in the way that we used to. Like, in the Middle Ages, they were literally filling in the map. People were just getting in boats, and they'd find like cultures and societies that nobody knew about, and that's really exciting.
I mean, people always have a counter to that argument, don't they? They go, "Oh, we haven't explored the depths of the ocean." So fucking what? There's some fish.
You don't want to know what's down
and
there.
Some mud. That's all it is. I'm never going to go there, am I?
Maybe in the future they'll sort that out. I mean, was it James Cameron that went to the Mariana Trench in that tiny little submarine? They went to the deepest point of the ocean. It's mad. There's some images about that, how deep it is in reference to different buildings and other structures. But I think another aspect of it is that the way that people receive the truth, and like that part in Men in Black, it was interesting because Will Smith, as like the ordinary citizen, was laughing at him for reading this conspiracy comic, and it's like nothing is ever really acceptable unless it's provided to you by a legitimate source, and that's something that is very, very of current year. And I don't know. I don't really I don't like that. I think that you can find your own way to understanding something rather than just having it spoon fed to you by the media.
Yeah, and I suppose if you go against the mainstream media, that's when things become conspiracy theories, or you become like that
Hmm.
show that lives
But
in.
the term conspiracy theory was invented by the FBI.
Was it?
Yeah, they invented that term um, to silence the alternative narratives around the assassination of JFK.
Mm.
Because a lot of people didn't believe, a lot of people that were actually there at the time, they didn't believe the version that the news was printing. They was like, that's not what I saw. And the FBI stepped in and came up with this term to basically just dismiss anything that went against what was in the papers. And that's where the whole idea of people that don't follow the media narrative are nutters, conspiracy theorists who wear tinfoil hats and live in
Mm.
basements.
Yeah, and I think people should question things more.
Yeah, they should, absolutely. You should. You should have the right to do that without being mocked.
Yeah, yeah, because it's only through questioning stuff that discoveries are made. And, like, I think we spoke about it a while back. I was on holiday with a family in Corfu or something, and all that stuff about the aliens came out. And I was trying
Yeah,
to watch it on Greek TV, and all I could work out was aliens, real. FBI says so, basically. And so all this stuff that they've denied for years and years and years, suddenly they go, oh, actually, there is a bit of truth to it.
exactly. They spent all of that time mocking people who dared to question things, and then after a certain period of time, well, actually, that is, yeah, no, that's true, yeah. No apology or anything. Well, I think one of the most mysterious places is what you're going to talk about first of all. You've given
Oh, am
me,
I going first?
yeah,
Okay.
you've given me some images to put up that are in reverse order. So I'm starting with number 3, which is actually number 1, right?
Yes.
Which is
Hang it up
this.
there.
It's up.
Yes. So I want to talk about the Great Pyramids. And in particular, something that's kind of interested me since I was a kid. My dad, interesting side note, my old man went to the pyramids in like the 60s. Do you know how he got there?
By camel.
No, he hitchhiked
Ah,
from Oldham. I'm like, how do you hitchhike across the sea? And he's like, well, we just got in a car with someone who was getting on a ferry and then hitchhiked all the way across Europe or whatever and then across the sea again. I'm like, that's mental. I
that
mean,
is
that's
mental.
that's unexplained. Well, no, I just explained it. But why anyone would, you wouldn't do that now, would you? You know what I
I've
mean?
always been. Why did he want? Why was he so drawn to the pyramids? What was it that made him want to get in strangers' cars and try and make his way there to look at them?
Well, primary school.
Yeah, I've
Do you
been there.
remember that far back?
Yeah,
Apparently, they were teaching exactly the same stuff back then. But it was kind of going on when Dad was young, wasn't it?
you mean
It
the
was
excavations or?
yeah, and they were discovering various bits and bobs, as when he was a kid. So it was all sort of real time, or certainly very fresh anyway. Um, and he's talked to me about it quite a bit, and it's the mystique, the way things don't quite add up. And he's been and stood in front of them, and he said just the vastness of it in the middle of nowhere. I mean, now there's a city just around the corner, isn't there? Giza. Um, but like when they were built, there was nothing. And he just said the vastness of it, the lack of like trees and water and anything that shows any sign of life just made it feel very alien to him. And my dad's a very sort of data driven science dude. That's what he's done all his life. And uh, so for him to talk about a place in those sort of terms uh, made it quite exciting to me as a kid. And he had all these like knickknacks that he'd bought back. I think they've still got them all, but probably in the loft. I remember once taking this sort of statue of Tutankhamun into school, at primary school, saying my dad found this in the pyramid, and all the other kids going, ah, and then some of them going, your dad's not been there. Then I pulled out photos of my dad in Egypt, and everyone believed that my dad was like this Indiana Jones type guy, and not a gas turbine engineer, So that was really cool. But these little knickknacks, I remember thinking they were like super cool when I was a kid. And, yeah, and thinking, oh, my dad was a bit of an adventurer, which he was, I suppose.
I think Indiana Jones is probably quite responsible in some way for the fascination that our generation had for that mysterious location. And the school trips you used to go. Did you go to the British Museum with your school, or did you go with your?
No, we went to like some hole in the ground. I think, what was it, the Blue John mine or something, which was great. But no, I was schooled in the Midlands, remember, whereas you're from Staines, which is a suburb of London. So, yeah. But yeah, I think going through school as well, we did all just learn about this stuff a little bit at sort of base level in primary school, and then probably a bit in secondary school in history lessons and stuff. And I've always thought a lot of it doesn't make sense. Like, how the fuck did they do it, for starters? I've told a story before about when I went up the Empire State Building. And we got up to the top of it, me and a mate. He vomited in the lift. That wasn't fun, because they're massive lifts, about 30 people in them. So I had to pretend I didn't know him. And then you get to the top, and there's all this information, and it says that they built it during the Great Depression, where there was like no money to do anything, and but they built it. I can't remember exactly, but I think it was about 6 months it took them to build the Empire State Building. And at the same time, Wembley, the new Wembley Stadium, that had just had gone over by 2 years or something. And I'm thinking, fucking hell, they built this with ropes and that in the 20s or whatever. But how did they do these? So the pyramids, they were like built 4,500 years ago, which is a long time, and they, like I say, they've always sort of been a great interest to me. And there's so many unexplained things about them. But if you look at this image, so what you can see there is the 3 pyramids at Giza, and directly below that, you can see some stars, can't you? Those stars, those bright ones, are Orion's belt. Now, yeah, and you can see the correlation. So, as it turns out, like, scientists and that have mapped out the pyramids, and they're in the exact same sort of scaled location as Orion's belt, which is, kind of cool on its own. But it gets a little bit deeper than that. If you pop along to the next the next picture there, Ben, that you'll see a diagram of the pyramids. The other thing, the pyramids, right? The south-facing face of the pyramid is almost perfectly like south. If you go to the middle of it, the south face is got what they call average error is just 2 minutes of arc, so it's slightly off, and that's hard to do even like by today's standard. So that's basically, if you took a line from the south facing side of the pyramid and had a laser going south, only after 2 minutes would you notice any difference. So that's pretty insane. And then the second image that you brought up is a bit about what you were talking about. So inside the main pyramid, and remember, the main pyramids isn't where they buried people. They've never found anyone inside a pyramid. The sort of mythology behind it is that they were burial chambers, but everything got nicked out of them.
Yeah, and
But
I just add one thing that I remember from a documentary that the image that we have of the pyramids today is very different to what they would have looked like at the time, because they were covered in a kind of white alabaster with the cap. The top was made of gold.
yeah, and they were smooth, and today
Yeah,
like they're all
we think of these kind of blocky pyramid shapes, but yeah, there was a coating, a covering on the exterior. Anyway,
yeah,
carry on.
and allegedly they were like ridiculously smooth and ridiculously perfect. That would have taken calculations that just weren't possible at the time. But in this image, you can see inside the pyramid, there's all these different chambers, but coming out of these chambers are these tunnels, which is what you mentioned. And those tunnels are aimed directly at one of them is aimed at Orisis, I think is how you say it, which is the lead star in Orion's belt, and the other tunnel is aimed directly at the constellation of Leo, which is one of the brightest stars in the sky. And scientists have sort of tracked. So obviously, it's not always pointing at that star because that star moves or the Earth moves or whatever. So, but scientists have tracked star movements back like thousands of years and AI'd it or whatever. So they worked out the patterns. And yeah, when they suspect the pyramids were built at sort of midnight, all these tunnels lined up perfectly with the stars, and those tunnels went all the way through the pyramid. If you pull the next picture, they went all the way through the pyramid and were perfectly cut, which again was just engineering that wasn't possible at the time. It's not like they started on the outside and drilled in, because well, you can't do that. And the hole is about the size of a shoebox, if you imagine.
Yeah.
So it's not like someone could fit all the way down. So each stone going, I think, what did they say? It was about 120 meters or something down to the bottom. It goes through like hundreds of these huge blocks, and it all has to be perfectly engineered. And again, they're just saying it couldn't have happened.
No, I mean it's even in because the way that they cut the stone in terms of there being an element of error, they would have cut the stone by hand using chisels or other cutting, like primitive cutting tools, a hammer and some kind of chisel tool. And if you're talking about thousands of blocks, there's no way that you can get every block cut. You just can't. It's statistically impossible to get every block cut how it needs to be cut to sit correctly inside the structure. It's just not possible. Now, a lot of people because there was a guy that I tried to demonstrate that it was all done by leverage. He built in his back garden a load of the some of the devices that we do know existed around that time or later, and he did a demonstration of how one man can move like these really heavy blocks. But most of the comments that people make about that is the scale, because he was talking about moving like one block that was 1/10 the size of the blocks that they were using, and it just doesn't. And also the accuracy of placing them in the right place and building. It's just, how did they start? Did they start at the top and build down?
I don't know. Nobody knows. But I think yeah, a lot of the ancient texts are like there were these ones called the pyramid texts. So they describe a region of sort of the night sky that they call the duats, I believe, and that's meant to be the afterlife. But these tunnels and stuff line up with the stars and the gods that are associated with these stars just far too accurately, and the maths involved in that is just immense, and then the engineering, and then then you go back to how the fuck do they actually do this? Where did the stone come from? Because there's no evidence of it being mined anywhere near where the actual pyramids ended up. There's no more of this stone. It's not like they took all the stone like to the last bit, you know. There's just so much stuff that is truly unexplained about it, and I think that's what makes it interesting. Of course, if you go now, one of my favourite shows is I've completely forgotten his name now, but the dude out of Ricky Gervais's mate who travels with an idiot or whatever it's
Carl
called.
Pilkington.
Yeah, he's been there now, and I won't bother going because he said it's shit and it's just like dirty nappies flying about and people selling you bottles of Coke.
It's kind of weird because I think that a lot of people have been tricked for generations into thinking that it's in the middle of the desert, but then there's some more modern and revealing photos that demonstrate that it's literally at the edge of the city, isn't it?
Yeah.
They always take the photo from the other side, but if you point your camera back in I don't know, east or west, or I don't know, you've got the pyramids, and then boom, it's just the city. Because the story is that they were there and nobody knew they were there, right? They were underneath these huge sand dunes, and there was a storm that swept all the sand covering the pyramids away one year.
Yeah.
And I find that absolutely. Imagine living in that city. Every morning you draw your curtains, and you're like, there's just these big mounds of sand. Then one morning you open your window and you're like, what the fuck is that? Just a collection of structures.
Well, to be fair, I think the city built up around the discovery of the pyramids, didn't it? Because they were like going in and nicking whatever they could find and looking for other stuff. So.
A very famous image, just in reference to what you were saying earlier about the looting and everything. I'm sure you've seen it, of a guy sitting in the street selling a mummy. Have you seen that photo? Let's see if I can find it. It was one of the early explorers, because suddenly it was, again, I suppose it was the end of the age of exploration, when you had these rich guys that were still interested in discovering stuff, and it was kind of like a rite of passage. So you get these dudes that would be funded by the aristocracy to go out there and find treasure and dig stuff up and learn about it and bring it back to the British Museum. But hang on, I'm just going to see if I can find that image. Keep going.
Well, I think what you've just said is true as well. Like in the sort of 1900s or whatever, people did romanticize about going to faraway places and discovering things. I'm not sure what the new version of that is. Yeah, like I suppose you have, what's that guy Around the World in 80 Days, and he was the he was a member of
Phileas Fogg.
Yeah, I know he's not real, but like, where is he? I don't know. But that Adventurers Club or whatever, and the British Museum and all those places sort of did exist, and it was promoted to go out and explore. Of course, I think back then there was a certain amount of ego involved, especially on our part as a British people, that we'll go out and discover what's really going on in that country. We can't leave them to it just to get on with their own lives. We'll take Christianity with us, probably, mess everyone up and give them diseases and stuff. I've gone off on a slight tangent.
some colonial guilt?
Yeah, probably a little bit. But it was very romanticized, and it's probably how you got laid ultimately, wasn't
Yeah,
it?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where.
I've just got, when students now do a gap year in
Yeah. Oh yeah.
yeah, I've just got back from Botswana. Yeah, well, six months in Botswana. Oh, did you build a school? Oh yeah, so yeah, I built a school for a day. Yeah,
Yeah.
fuck off, you know. But
Look at
this
this
guy,
chap. Can you?
he's gone out to a market and found a mummy.
Oh,
That's nuts, isn't it?
that's from
Selling a mummy.
1865. That image. Um,
There you
I've
go.
seen other ones as well, but they literally just went because one of the things that prevented people from entering the tombs is the curse, right? This is the real thing that happened with the tomb of Tutankhamun.
Yeah.
That there was that. What was the phrase that it said on the seal of the entrance to the tomb? It's something similar to the phrase that is over the gates of hell. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Something like that. But it was something similar about cursing anyone who breaks the seal of the door. And they broke the seal. And a lot of people in that team died within the next 6 months in very mysterious circumstances.
Do you want to know what it was? It was, as for all men who shall enter this my tomb impure, there will be judgment, and an end shall be made for him. I shall seize his neck like a bird. I shall cast for fear of myself into him.
Nice.
Wow. Yeah, that'll pull the willows up, yeah. But, also, you open a tomb that's not been open for a few thousand years, there's bound to be COVID in there.
Yeah, ancient COVID. I mean, the air itself, just the air, like, it's not the same air that you would have breathed. I'd say that happens in Indiana Jones as well, doesn't it? The documentary Indiana Jones. When they open that tomb and all of the air comes out. However, what I don't like about that part of that story, of that film, is that the tomb is full of snakes. Because that doesn't make sense. What are they doing? How do they get in there, all those snakes? And are they supposed to be in there for like thousands of years? Give me a break.
I was watching something the other day about Vikings on that show called Vikings. Again, it's not a documentary, but they were in like medieval England, and this king had built a snake pit, and he had all these exotic snakes in it, and like a massive variety of them. Like, we didn't have them, did we?
Yeah, no, that totally happened. That's a matter of historical fact. That it was Loughborough, who was supposedly a real. The thing about the Viking series is that Loughborough is like an amalgamation of 3 different Viking legends. But there was a Loughborough. Loughborough means leather trousers. That's he used to wear like these. He was famous for his trousers. Imagine being a Viking and being famous for your trousers. It's pretty lame. But he was killed. There's an image.
Well, he was killed by snakes.
Yeah,
this was like the king of Wessex or something.
Yeah,
and he had all boa constrictors and cobras and shit in this pit. Like, where did they come from?
Well, there were poisonous snakes in England at that time.
Well, okay.
It's just like it's like one of the things that my students here in Spain always talk about is that jabalí, the wild pig, the boar.
Yeah.
England is something that they don't like. That's a historical thing because England used to be absolutely full of those wild pigs, but they got hunted into extinction by the aristocracy because they belonged to the king. And
so damn tasty.
Yeah, and this is like here. People don't really care about them that much, but they're a delicacy in England because of the. I was going to say scarcity. They don't exist. If you want wild pig in the UK, it has to be imported.
Yeah,
I say like that. You need to start up a wild pig sausage market in Spain, export it all to the UK, make a bomb, There you go. That's one of my business ideas. I'm just going to seg now into, you were talking about the stars, and there's a lot of stuff in my research of unexplained and interesting objects related to the stars, because I think that we used to have a different relationship with them all. Have you heard of and I can never say this correctly, the Antikythera, Antikythera. It's the name of a Greek island, but it's also the name of this mechanism, the Antikythera mechanism. Have you heard of this?
No.
It was discovered on inside a shipwreck.
It's a shipwreck. Oh, okay, yeah. No, I know there was a shipwreck, but okay.
Next to
carry
the
on.
island of Antikythera. There we go. I can say it right. They found this shipwreck, and on the shipwreck they discovered. In fact, I'm going to do this the other way around, because this is the mechanism all together as it was when they pulled it out of the shipwreck. And it's they didn't know what it was at first, but at first they were just fascinated by the fact that it had gears, that it had some kind of mechanism inside of it. And they did dating on it. It was discovered in 1901, but it wasn't until 2008 that they X-rayed it, because obviously in 1901 they didn't have the technology to fully kind of understand what they were looking at. And when they X-rayed it, they discovered that it was full of what would have been moving parts. I can't remember when exactly they dated it, but it's an ancient Greek device from BC, before Christ, and it's basically an orrery. I couldn't remember what that was, but if I explain orrery, are you familiar with that term, orrery?
Is it like no, go on. It's something to do with like finding your way, isn't it?
Yeah, if you can imagine, you've probably seen these before in, I don't know, in science fiction or whatever, but if you imagine the planets on these little metal poles, and it demonstrates how they move around each other. You know what I mean? It's a mechanical model of the solar system. It's like, it shows you how the planets and move. And this device, I'll just go to the modern version of it now. After the scan, they were able to understand what the individual parts were, and they built a replica, and it's an astronomical clock. The extraordinary thing is, we're talking over 2,000 years ago. They were mapping the movements of stars that you can't see with the naked eye. Nobody knows how they did that. They were so accurate with this machine as well. It had like a 4-year cycle. It used to predict astronomical positions, eclipses, decades in advance. So I don't know what this.
That's mental.
It's nuts. It just goes against everything that we previously thought we knew about how advanced they were at that time. And the gears, like, again, very, very precisely cut, like
I mean, it looks like a Swiss watch.
Yeah. And for all of these parts to be able to move, again, there can't be any error, because it's mapping something so precisely on such a small scale that it needs to be completely accurate. You probably can't read that writing; it's quite a small image, but it's basically a computer. And this is what freaks people out, because it's called an analog computer, in terms that it has a mechanism that is based on data, but it's analog, so it has to be, you have to there's a human intervention. You have to like wind it up or move the parts to a certain point. But yeah, it's an unexplainable.
But you know what?
Item.
What's as insane as finding it is the fact they haven't found other things like it.
What was it doing there? This is it's on a wooden ship on this shipwreck. nobody knows what the intent. What was that ship doing? Where were they? That they needed that device. They needed that. They needed to be able to predict these 4-year cycle.
Are you saying the mechanism is older than the ship?
No. I'm saying that in a primitive, what we would consider to be a primitive time.
Yeah, 87 BC. They're saying.
Yeah,
Were they even making shit out of bronze?
Exactly. Well, yeah, they were, but it's like just how. What was the intention of that ship? Where was it going? Why did they need to know? We're talking about like the map of the world being incomplete. This is at a time where supposedly we didn't even know what was on the face of our own planet, and this ship is sailing around with this navigation device that is mapping stars and planets that we can't even see with the naked eye. So I don't know what it is that they were up to. Well, nobody does. That's the strange, mysterious thing about it. Yeah. Next.
I like this. I like that one.
I've got a lot of these. There's a lot of... I'll ask you a question. What do you think this is?
Well, I'm lagging, but yeah, I'll tell you in a sec. I'm very excited to see what it is when it arrives.
14 centimeters high.
I fucked it now. Sorry, I pressed a button. Oh, okay. There's a thing that goes in it, and then another thing that goes in it. To me, it looks like something to make butter with.
That's a battery. It's called the Baghdad battery.
What?
And it was discovered in 1936 in Iraq. In Ctesiphon, the Parthian, from the capital of Parthian, and it was supposedly from between 250 BC and 224 AD. There's a 400 year. Well, that's not a very big gap, but it's about a 400 year gap. The way that it works is so that those components there is like it's a ceramic pot, and then there's like a tube of copper and an iron rod. I don't know which is which in that diagram. But yeah, it produced and stored electricity.
But what were they doing with the electricity?
Nobody knows. We don't know. It's mad, isn't it? It's mad. This is the thing I think that is like with the pyramids and with these types of objects. We always have, and I've used this word several times in the last few minutes. We have this idea that the society, culture, the people were primitive back then, but there's so much technology that has been lost. And it's like one thing that always fascinated me was the Great Library of Alexandria. You know, the fire that destroyed all of these manuscripts that was supposed to be. That was like the brain of the world at that time. It's like all of the information of all of the societies across the planet had been put in one place, and we don't know what they knew back then. We don't know what they were capable of. A lot of historical and archaeological research is guesswork. That's the main principle of. I mean, you have to use what we know, and the fact is, what we know is minimal. So a lot of it is just guesswork.
Did you say that's copper and iron?
Yeah.
So that, it. Other thing, that's what you do for electroplating stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. That's exactly what it is.
Oh, someone else already thought of that. I've worked it out. No, because that's my ex-father-in-law. He basically did this. He had a jar with a bit of copper and a bit of iron, and then a load of like bits of silver, and he electroplate jewelry with it. Maybe that's what they were doing. I thought I'd worked it out, but someone else has already said that. Damn it! Um,
I'm gonna.
but no, I mean that's mad. If they were doing that back then,
But
knock off jewelry. Oh no, it's real gold, sir. Look, you can tell.
even
That's,
if it was a battery, the next question is, as you say, like, what the hell are they powering? I'm going to give you another "what is this" image that should be popping up for you any second now. Can you see that?
No, sorry, man. I think there's like a 10-second lag, unfortunately. It's about to come up because it's about last when it's gone. Oh,
What do you think that is?
is it a fondue set? A Chinese fondue.
That's
And then those little frogs get molten cheese poured into them.
You're not far off, except you
Okay.
are.
Yeah.
It's a seismoscope, also known as an earthquake detector.
Ah, from China?
Yeah,
Or
from
Japan?
Zhang Heng, the chap on the right there, in 132 AD. How it works is a mystery, apparently, but which, again, that statement in itself confuses me. How can they know what it is and not know how it works?
Yeah.
But yeah, apparently that was used. They don't know how to detect earthquakes. I suppose it's something based on.
Detect or measure them. Do we know?
No idea. Detect, it says in my research, but I suppose it's something related to the vibration.
What sort of year was this, though?
That was in 132 AD.
Again, so a long time ago. And in my tiny little mind, I'm thinking those lovely Chinese people were thinking, oh, it's a dragon or something. I wouldn't have thought the concept of an earthquake was a thing, or was it? I don't know.
Well,
They're very advanced, aren't they, over
a
there?
very scientific approach to earthquakes, because elsewhere in the world at that time, people would, including the Greeks, they would experience natural disasters as something relating to the gods or some other kind of spiritual influence. But this guy was approaching it from a scientific point of view. He knew that it was a natural phenomenon, and he designed this machine to detect them. So well done, China. Next in the what is this? Hang on, here we go. Look at
I
that.
really like this game.
What's that? You might know this one because it's. I was going to say
I'm waiting with bated breath. Is it wrestling related?
no, but it is.
Here it comes.
It's close out of everything that we've looked at so far. It's the one that's closest to you geographically.
Right. I mean, that's a lump. Then that
It's
is
a big old lump.
a lump of earth. No, is that like? Oh, I'm going to hazard a guess.
Yeah.
Is it a Viking burial site in England?
Yes, it's Sutton Hoo. Have you heard of Sutton Hoo?
No.
Sutton Hoo. I love this. It's just nuts because of the story that surrounds it. So Sutton Hoo was it existed for almost 2,000 years, and nobody knew it was there. So basically, it was in the grounds of this rich lady's property. Edith Pretty was her name, and they were just on her land. And then I can't remember exactly how it happened, but I think it was during the war. Somebody asked her, what are those in your garden? And she said, absolutely no idea. If you're in any way interested, you can go and take a look. And they went and had a look at them, and they discovered that a full intact Viking burial ship, and these incredible artifacts, including this helmet that you've probably seen before. I'm very fond of this helmet because it was on the front cover of, my dad used to collect the National Geographic, and I used to love looking at the National Geographic because you'd get some African boobs in there occasionally. And as a kid, that was very exciting to me. I would pretend that I had a project at school, but really I was just looking at the boobs. This was
That's
on,
where that helmet's from.
yeah, that was
Yeah, I've seen that helmet before, and I've always wondered why it's got a 1980s mustache.
yeah. Well, that's a decorative helmet, and it's, I suppose, in some way responsible for the myth that we have about Vikings, because they never used to wear stuff like that into battle. Because it's impractical, and also, why would you wear something that's made out of gold and silver or that? But they would use them for the burial ceremonies, so you could take it into the afterlife. Have I got another?
Yeah.
Hang on, I've got another one for you to guess what it is. So that's Sutton Hoo. I've got more information on it, but I'm going to leave it. You can go check it out for yourself. Look it up. But yeah, from the 6th to the 7th century in Suffolk, Woodbridge in Suffolk, England. And
I've never found anything interesting in our garden. I think the people who moved into our old house, because Sharon's had so many pets, they'll find some interesting stuff, like a hedgehog skeleton and some lizards. And maybe we buried them all next to each other.
Good Lord.
So they'll just think, what the fuck?
Yeah, something's happened here.
A weird little zoo.
What about this? What's that?
I am waiting. The Vikings got everywhere, though, didn't they? Sorry, just going
Yeah.
back to
Well,
Vikings.
they discovered America, much to the chagrin of Spanish people. They don't like it when you say that. But, they found Viking settlements in the Americas.
All right, what is this?
What is that?
It looks like something that is metal that's not meant to be there because metal hadn't been invented. Is it the crucifix? No, I don't know. What is it?
It's a hammer. It's a hammer. I'm going to tell you a little story about how it was discovered. So in June 1936, a man called Max Hahn and his wife were out on a walk, and they noticed a rock with a bit of wood sticking out of it. And they just decided to take it home. And then later they cracked it open with a hammer and chisel and ironically found a hammer inside. And they didn't, they didn't have any kind of reason to believe it was anything unusual. So they handed it over to, they just happened to have some archaeologist friends. And they did some dating on it. And they found out that it was 400 million years old.
Fuck. So that's like caveman shit, yeah?
Yeah, but it's a hammer in the style of a modern kind of like mining hammer.
Well, what's it made of? Is it wood and metal?
It's made of wood and metal, yeah.
That's crazy.
Apparently it's so old that a section of the handle has started to transform into coal.
Wow.
And it was something that was kind of picked up by creationists. There's a famous creationist called Card, I think it's Bow or Boff, and he was using it as proof of his theories. But yeah, the hammer's head is made out of more than 96% iron, which is far purer than anything nature could have achieved.
Yeah.
Technology and stylistically it's like a 19th century American hammer, but it was the London hammer, so it's found in London. I can't remember if that's London, England, or it might be London, Texas. I can't remember. I'm not privy to that information, but yeah, weird. They don't know how it got inside a rock. They don't know why the material appears to be so incredibly old. It's just a mysterious, unexplained object.
There's a recurring theme in all of these, isn't there? And I think it's things out of time. Would
Hmm.
that make sense? Like
Yeah, yeah.
a hammer that existed when it shouldn't have, and a computer basically on a wooden boat, and technology to build things when that technology wasn't believed to be around. I mean, there's a simple answer, isn't there? Ben, it's time travel.
Aliens. Oh,
No,
right.
it's
Okay.
time travel.
Time
It's
traveling
time travel.
aliens. Yeah.
Time travel. At some point in the future, we invent time travel and leave it in the hands of someone like me or you, and we
Yeah.
just
I'm
go
just going to
about
stick a
like just
hammer in a
fucking with
rock.
people, just screwing with people by
Yeah.
giving some Egyptians a CAD drawing of
Yeah.
how to make a pyramid.
Or a Pokemon figure.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. That'll be next. Someone will find a Charizard, like
made in
fucking
China.
one of one. Yeah, in Pompeii. They'll start chiseling away at Pompeii, and there'll be a Charizard
What's that doing
Pokemon
there?
card.
What's this?
Uh,
You're not going to see it for a while, so
I know. What could it be? Do 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 do.
I just found a even more interesting Antikythera they
Oh,
made that I'm gonna show you in a second, because it's the replica that they built is really cool.
well, this Ben is a stone circle. Is it not?
Yeah, it's a super henge. Super henge.
Or this is a graphic of what it might appear to be, because I have not seen this. I've been to Stonehenge
This is just
several
down the road
times.
from there.
Ah,
It's literally next to the. They found it quite recently, I think. Hang on, I'm just
but I'm not
pulling
sure
up
it
some data.
exists in this state, does it? Is this an artist's
That's an artist
impression
depiction of how the stones.
would
It's at
look if they
Durrington
went?
Walls. So
Okay.
this is about 2 miles from Stonehenge, which everyone's familiar with, and
Hmm.
it's 15 times the size of Stonehenge. And it
Wow.
was discovered quite recently. Well, in I think 2015, these monoliths were found buried beneath the bank of the Durrington Walls, Superhenge. Yeah, and again, like Stonehenge itself, they think that it's some kind of astronomical clock. There's something that I think that we've lost in time is, like I said before, our relationship with the stars. I mean, we used to use the stars and map the stars and correlate our lifestyles around. I don't know. I don't know what that information is. I don't know why it was so important, but
Yeah. Well, I've been to Stonehenge, like I say, a couple of times, and several, maybe even more than that. And various substances were involved, but I always enjoyed it, and not because of those substances, or maybe
yeah.
partly, but there's certainly something quite mystical about the place.
Hmm.
And what you were saying about our relationship with the stars, and I think you could expand that to our relationship with nature, and a lot of the Stonehenge theories revolve around druids and paganism, and we just lived as nature sort of allowed us to back then, and celebrated certain points in nature. I've been to Stonehenge for both the summer and winter solstice, with a load of crusty hippies, and that was really good fun. And people have said that I don't know much about this mega one, but people have said that. Well, there's loads of theories about Stonehenge, isn't there? Whether
Hmm.
it's a sort of calendar or an observatory, but it was certainly something to do with Druidism and
Rituals.
and the Celtic high priests, or Celtic high priests, sorry.
Yeah.
Uh,
Sacrificial stuff.
yeah, and I find it very interesting.
It is. It's
Uh,
nuts.
I think I think it was a simpler time, but also for someone to come up and make these things align with stars and whatever. I saw once a picture of Stonehenge from above, like a drone maybe, and it is very, very circular.
Yeah.
Like if you ask me to do it, I'm not sure
It'd
how
be
I'd
a
do it.
square or a triangle.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
I
very
just want to. I just
interesting.
want to show you the modern version of the Antikythera that they put together because it just looks cool. Somebody made it. It's all shiny and new. They housed it in plastic so you can like see the
So you can
mechanism.
see the movements of
Yeah,
it and stuff.
and that's a really cool replica. But yeah, look at
There's
that.
something to be that precise, and also you were saying like how accurate it is. It can predict for what did you say 4 years or
It was a
something?
4-year cycle based on the Olympiad. So, because you know the Greeks built the Olympic Games and all of their like a lot of their
Yeah,
cultural events were around the cycles of the planets.
yeah.
So I mean, obviously, yeah, astronomy was a big part of their culture, and it was more important then because it was something that affected the way that they not just the farming, but the way that they lived their lives. You know, they and I don't know if there's truth in those ideas or not because it's not how society functions these days. But you know, they would make decisions based on the alignment of the stars and the planets. They would justify wars and your mood, your behaviour based on all of those things. Marry at specific times of the year or all of that stuff.
Hmm.
Crazy. Can you see that? Can you see that?
Yeah, no, I'm
Dig
looking
those.
at it.
I'd like one of those. If I could get one of those on AliExpress or like Wish, I'd just have that on my coffee table. I think that looks cool.
Maybe I'll make you one.
Yeah, do that. You've got the tools.
Me and Nige could make it for you.
I've
Go on, sorry.
I've got one more just because I wasn't going to talk about this, but just because we've been mentioning like what we knew about maps and where things are. This is the Piri-Reis map. I think that's how you pronounce it. So a little story about this. In 1929, there was a group of
Wow.
historians that they described as an amazing discovery, like that was written on the skin of a gazelle. That's
Right.
this, right? So after they studied it, they found that it was a genuine map drawn in 1513 by Piri-Reis, who's a well-documented admiral of the Turkish Navy. So,
That is so accurate, isn't it?
well, one of the problems with this map is, and I don't think it shows it on this part. It's on it. I think it's on the other side, but it shows that we need to like rethink the chronology of and the number of exploratory discoveries because it describes Antarctica's topography and also Antarctica isn't covered in ice in the map. It describes like the land beneath the ice. It's drawn as being land, not ice. And also, like you say, the accuracy is kind of mixed with ideas that didn't come into a lot later that we thought came a lot later.
Well, I'm saying it's accurate. You know, my geography's rubbish, but I think I can see England and Ireland,
Yeah,
and then France and Spain and Italy and the boot and stuff, and then that big bit underneath. That's all Africa, isn't it?
yeah. The Antarctica aspect is what's most shocking because Antarctica has been covered in ice for more than 6,000 years, and there's no way that he could have mapped the land under it. That we've only done that recently with modern technology. We've been able to scan the surface to see
Lasers and
yeah,
that.
all of that stuff to map what and it's exactly accurate. It's correct. So what the hell was he doing? There's a lot more going on with that map that we probably don't have time to go into. But there was a lot of theories that it brought about that the basically the face of the Earth looked entirely different, as little as 500 years ago to what it looks like now. In the map it shows that part of Antarctica is connected to South America, which is just weird, nuts. Right, I've got one more thing.
Okay.
Have you heard of the Voynich manuscript?
No.
Where
You know, I don't really.
been living in a cave? The Voynich manuscript, or is a codex. There's one of these unexplained, mysterious.
Lily did that. I'm looking at it now. That's Lily.
Well,
what if he's naked ladies in a bath?
Exactly. There's some weird technology going on there. There's some pipes that are putting some fluid in. There's a plant. So the Voynich manuscript or codex is it hasn't. Nobody knows what language that is, and it doesn't make any sense because we can use what we know about modern languages and historical languages to pretty much understand any text. There's no
it's codes, isn't it?
Yeah. But there are professional code breakers that have been working on this text for decades, and nobody's been able to understand not only what the text means, but what the images that go alongside it, because there's all of these very, very intricate drawings of plants that don't look like any plant that we know through history. So I just go.
The naked ladies in the.
What are they doing? Nobody knows what they're up to. So there's lots of. It's got 240 pages, and like a lot of it is just plants and animals and a lot of them look like alien species. You know, the things that we don't recognise from Earth. So,
what's that film where they predict crime in the future? Minority Report, and they have triplets in a bath. That's what it looks like to me.
Well, maybe this is the script.
Yeah, maybe this is Tom Cruise's notebook
in a bath with some women.
Don't mention Tom Cruise.
They carbon dated it. It's from the 15th century, so from like 1404 to 1438. And it was they believe that it was made in Italy. It was composed in Italy during the Renaissance, and people are still debating what's it all about. Some people say that it might be a script for a natural language or a constructed language. Some people say it's a code or a cipher or some other or a hoax even, or some kind of like folklore fantasy book. But there's a kind of strange history around it all. It disappeared and reappeared. Like who was it that bought it? I can't remember. Somebody bought it at an auction in the 1900s. There's a strange history that I've lost. I can't find it now. Oh, here we go. There it is. Yeah. So much of the early history is unknown, but in 2009 they did the carbon dating and they found out that it was from 1404. So the first confirmed owner was George Barish, a 17th century alchemist from Prague. So it's this is where it kind of gets mysterious, because the alchemists were obviously trying to find a way to make gold, and also in addition they were very interested in creating life, like how to create life. There's a whole story of Faustus, and he was like unable to read it, obviously. He got bored. He just left it on his bookshelf, and then some mate of his picked it up and said, "What's this? This is interesting," and he took it away. This guy called Kircher, and this is all documented. This is the stuff that we know. Kircher took the book. Sorry, Barish gave the book to another friend called Jan Merrick Marcy because he died. So he didn't really give it to him. He left it to him in his will. I should just phrase that correctly. And then, yeah, it just goes on. This book just kept getting passed around and nobody really knew what it was. And people just got bored and ended up leaving it on shelves. It goes on for hundreds of years. And then finally, it was in the 20th century that one dude found it at an auction. He's like, what the hell is this? And that's the guy was called Wilfrid Vonich. And he's the guy that kind of brought the public attention to the book. And the reason that it got famous is because it startled the Catholics. They didn't like it. They thought that it might be something that threatened their religion, and they've been trying to hide it for a long time. But yeah, Voynich was the last person to try and translate it, and then eventually it just got sold to a museum. I think you can see. I think it's in the Vatican now, actually.
Really?
I think.
So they're not ever going to let it go, are they? But yeah, we've talked about AI a lot before, haven't we? And AI could work this out, couldn't it?
Yeah.
I guess this is like, that's another thing, isn't it? We're at a point in our technological advancement that we've never been at before, because we're just always moving forward, aren't we? So I guess when weird shit gets found now, it's more likely to be explained than it was 1,000 years ago or whatever.
But again, I kind of feel like a lot of stuff gets dismissed because it's almost like we're not supposed to talk about it. When you start talking about stuff that is outside of science,
yeah,
like it just gets dismissed as like lunacy. Like talking about that Antikythera machine, that device. I don't know. If you talk about talk about that to someone in the pub, they'll just go, "Yeah, whatever, mate. It's nuts." I said, "No, it's a real thing." This dude, I'm just going to do very, very quickly. I'm going to do the last one, right? So this a good example. The dropper stones. The dropper stones were discovered in 1938 in a cave in China by Dr. Chi. I always feel like I sound racist when I say Chinese names, but his name was, and this is exactly what his name was, Dr. Chi Pu Tai.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's a real person, and he found these discs that have like this hole in the middle. And he realised that they're covered in hieroglyphics that go around in that spiral. And he studied it and translated it, and it was revealed that the discs tell the story of spaceships that crashed into the mountains, piloted by people who called themselves the Dropper. And he presented that to the scientific community, and they all went, dickhead. And he was so embarrassed and upset that he got ridiculed that he's like kind of exiled himself in Japan. He just went to Japan. The Russians got involved because the Russians were like, actually, we are quite interested in that. And they asked for some, I don't know, like the Russians, I guess it was some arm of the military or whatever. They requested some of the discs for studying, and he sent some to Moscow, and it was in a Soviet magazine called Sputnik, obviously. There's a Russian doctor called Vyacheslav Saizev, who did an experiment with the disc where supposedly that he placed them on a special turntable, and they were shown to like vibrate or hum in an unusual rhythm.
I think I've heard a little bit about these. They're meant to like emit energy or something, aren't they?
Yeah.
I've never seen it though. I've heard about them, but I've never sort of looked at it. And I love the alien
It just
stuff.
got buried though. This is the thing. This is what I'm saying. Like, it's something so interesting, but it kind of feels like there are forces that don't want us to be curious or to uh, entertain the idea of things that are outside of our given understanding. It's like it challenges science. It challenges how we view the world and how things are
Again,
organized.
how old are these men to be? Like 12,000 years
Yeah,
old. Were they
yeah.
making shit like
They say
this?
more than 10,000 years old. Yeah, and they're engraved with these. I mean, the one that I've put on the screen is not the best example because you can't really see it, but there were hundreds of them in this cave, and yeah, they have this story engraved into them in tiny hieroglyphics. Which again, as you say, 10,000 years ago, how would they even do that? It's the tiny
Yeah.
hieroglyph like carved into metal. At the end
There's
of the
so
day,
much unexplained, isn't there? There's so much.
yes. Well, in fact, we're going to have to do a second episode to continue just scraping the surface of all of the strange and unexplained. That's one of the reasons I think the X-Files was so popular when we were kids. I loved that show.
Yeah.
Not just because of which one was
Scully.
Mulder? Scully, that one, yeah, the ginger. But yeah, I wish those kind of shows were still on TV. The Outer Limits, do you remember that?
Yeah, that was good.
Great. And then just for the scientific side of your brain, Tomorrow's World.
Yeah, man, I'm still pissed off with Tomorrow's World
Why?
and the BBC for because where's my fucking jetpack and stuff? Like that was
Your
meant to be
hoverboard.
happened by like '94, and I'm still waiting.
Still walking everywhere like an idiot, like a
I
chump.
know, losers. But I think human nature is to try and explain stuff, isn't it? I mean, that's what we try and do a little bit. I don't know how successful we are at it.
Not very.
But yeah, but there's, I think the way, if something were discovered today, like those discs, there's that many people that are that clever. If it was shared around, we'd work it out, wouldn't we? And then maybe
but I don't.
if things were genuine, then that would be exciting because people are like, "Oh my god, aliens crashed."
But I don't think
would it ever get to that point?
No,
where
because I don't feel that those things are shared publicly. I think that's one of the functions of the media is to protect the public from knowing things that challenge their understanding of reality. Because some people, especially, it's just a numbers game, isn't it? If you just announce tomorrow very openly that there is alien life, then some people are just going to go bonkers. It's like, okay, well, there are aliens. Why the hell am I going to get up tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to work if there are aliens? Like, what's the point in me walking my dog? Or it's just, I don't know, your whole world kind of collapses in on itself with information like that. So I think that
but I think until like the world becomes a smaller place and we start working better together, different countries, different governments and stuff, anything that happens like this is always seen as some sort of threat, isn't it? Whether it be aliens or there's technology that we didn't know about, it seems to be like talking about it and stuff, and the pyramids being unexplained feels a little bit threatening. Do you know what I mean? You call it? It's like, oh, this stuff has happened, but we don't understand, so it must be scary. We should probably blow it up. That's human reaction to it, isn't it? And until as a planet, I'm not making my case for Miss Universe here, but until as a planet we can sort of work more collaborate. You know the word I mean.
Collaboratively.
We're fucked when we keep discovering these things because we'll just see it as a threat, and then like Russia will go, "Oh no, I'm keeping these discs and not telling anyone about it," and China will be like, "Oh no, we found this fucking thing," or we've invented this thing, we're not telling you about it. And yeah, unless we all sort of come together, then everything's always going to be a threat, isn't it?
I think it's more sinister than that. I think it's this kind of thing is a distraction from your role, your function in society, which is to be a good consumer. And any distraction from the cathedral of consumerism is a no-no. So yeah, why would you? They don't want you to be thinking about goals and objectives of the people in the past, or lost ideas and lost motives, when you could be on AliExpress ordering yourself a coffee table Antikythera machine. So there you go. I think that's a good place to conclude.
Yeah. All right. I enjoyed learning about stuff. Thank you.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, we'll have to delve back into this topic and uneducate the public on the other mysteries that are out there. The truth is out there as well, apparently, according to X-Files.
Do.
All right.
All right, mate. Good show.
All right. Speak to you soon. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Medically unexplained.